Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Oscar Buzz. Trevor here, joined by Thomas as always, and we are talking about Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, Part 1. A bit of a mouthful. And this movie is also a bit of a mouthful. It's a little bit bloated, but it's also really, really fun. Thomas, you wanna kick us off with some thoughts?
Yeah, I guess I'll kick us off. So I've been a fan of the direction of the Mission Impossible franchise has taken. It's very much lost sort of a lot of the thriller elements that you got from the first two, and it's just basically turned to an action film series. But I do appreciate the fact that the thriller roots are sort of still there in a lot of the aspects. Like I really like the stuff in the airport. I really like the thriller aspects on the train. Like it's not lost its identity. It's just evolved into something a bit more modern and a bit more sort of high spectacle, so I appreciate all that. I mean, obviously all the action set pieces, they're Mission Impossible films, so like they're going to be good, but I think they are actually really just exceptional. Here also all the elements that were introduced, or most of the elements that were introduced, I really liked. So I really liked Hayley Atwell, her character Grace, was it? Grace?
Yeah, Grace.
Yeah. Loved her character, loved her. She had a great
brilliant in this.
Yeah, 100%. But also, like, all the performances I thought were actually quite good. Vanessa Kirby, I'd also highlight. It's just he had to do a bit of double rolling as well, which is always hard. And then Tom Cruise is just sort of a great anchor for this franchise. He knows what he's doing at this point with this character. So, yeah, there's a lot to love here. I do think there are problems. I do think, notably, as you said, the over-bloated nature. It's not that it's paced poorly. Like, it does flow. You are invested throughout. I just think it's a bit long. I just think there's a bit too much.
Yeah,
that they're trying to do.
It's always very direct. Like it's always
from it's very straight to the point.
But it does feel like it's trying to do a bit too much. I don't know what would be cut though. I just think like fundamentally it is trying to tackle too much, and like it does. Like you feel it a little bit. You definitely feel it.
You do.
But yeah, no, I completely agree. Really loved Hayley Atwell in this role. I mean, even just from like her introduction as the pickpocket, and like they actually develop her in a really nice way where she doesn't just feel like kind of side piece character that's just there to serve one specific bit role in the plot. Like it feels like she's treated like a real character, which shouldn't be exciting, but like it clears a bar that I think a lot of other films, particularly in the action genre, don't with their female protagonists. So that was really nice to see. As you say, just like every single set piece,
pretty much all of them,
really well orchestrated.
Yeah, like especially, and I said this before, but especially the airport sequence and the train sequence. I think the train sequence at the end, which you've seen some of it in trailers, might genuinely be my favorite Mission Impossible action set piece, like in the entire franchise, which is a hard thing to top with. You've got the opera scene in Rogue Nation, you've got the Burj Khalifa bit in Ghost Protocol. There's a variety in Fallout to choose from, but I genuinely think that just the tension it fills it with, and just the action itself is very impressive. Just very well handled.
Like no, we'll talk about spoilers. It's fine. We'll talk about spoilers. Like going from car to car, you would think would be repetitive, but and this is gonna be such a stupid comparison. It felt like a Lego game in the best way possible, in that you're going from like car to car, and then there's like a new challenge in every single one that like you have to do something different, and then you jump to the next one, and then there's a new challenge there, and each one feels like a puzzle. Like that is such a dumb comparison to make, I know, but it really did feel like that. And I mean that as like the highest level of compliment.
Yeah, for sure. They managed to make this half-an-hour action set piece seem like genuinely about 15 minutes, just because you were on edge throughout. You were always sort of invested in what was happening. Yeah, as you say, it brought variety to it, which I think was really.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even think like the car chase sequence is very, very fun.
Yeah, no, because I did think like the car chase sequence was maybe the one that was like, this could have been shortened a bit, but then still it had this sort of extra dynamic of them being handcuffed to one anher. I thought that was a nice little addition. Like it stopped it feeling just tired, I guess, whereas it very much could have done.
This film was really good at like kind of quietly introducing elements to spice up the action set pieces and make them more exciting than stuff that we've seen previously in this franchise. Because like I'm not the biggest fan of this franchise. I don't really love any of the first 5. I think that Fallout's really, really good. Like, I think like Ghost Protocol, Rogue Nation are like decent at best, but I'm not really massive fans of them. So it's really just Fallout that I enjoyed going into this. But I was pleasantly surprised by how much this really, really works for me. I do think it is a bit of a sugar high movie, and I said this on Letterboxd. Like, and what I mean by that is, it's really fun while you're watching it, and you feel like the energy, and you're like, yeah, while you're watching it, and then you walk out of the theater, and like 30 minutes later, like it feels like a lot of what has happened in the film has already kind of gone out of your mind, and it isn't really going to stay with me in any meaningful capacity as I like think about like the best of the year at the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, specifically the plot as well, I'll highlight as that sort of thing. Like, I don't think I could describe the plot back to you. It's not like it's
No.
confusing. It's just very convoluted, very like specific. It's like it's quite straightforward in many respects. I mean, what they're
Yeah.
doing, so it is very easy to follow. But there is so many going. There's so much going on. There's so many elements. Like I couldn't explain to you what actually happened in this film. I don't think I could really explain to you many of the character moments outside of the sort of the big memorable scenes. So yeah, I do agree with you in some regards that yes,
Yeah.
potentially in a week's time, how much of this film will I actually remember? But I still think that despite that, it was a still very fun like ride during the film.
Yeah.
I still would say it's probably worth it just in that regard.
And it's interesting. I think it's always interesting to talk about the political subtext of a lot of spy action films and stuff of this franchise because they can be quite messy politically.
Yeah.
In the way that they'll be like, glorifying these organizations that maybe have not done the best of things, like the CIA or whatever. And it is quite interesting that this film actually kind of is taking a point to go against the government in some capacity, but then also still standing with it. Again, it's like it's corrupt, but then it's also still good, and we also have to keep on doing things with it. It's like, oh well, like I mean, Fallout as well, very very messy politically in the way that it's like, we must enforce the status quo, and anybody who doesn't like America is a nuclear terrorist. And it's like, well, like it's always something to bring up. I don't think that every film should be viewed through a exclusively political lens, but every film is going to inherently be political because nothing exists in a vacuum. So every film is, by the very essence of existing, is making a political statement by what it is conveying and what it is upholding or trying to push back against.
And I mean, it's a very easy comparison to make because obviously Tom Cruise, some blockbusters, but it is very similar in a way to Top Gun Maverick, where that is promoting questionable, let's say, questionable.
I think Top Gun even more so than
I think Top Gun even more so. In
Top Gun is
you
very
could describe Top Gun as propaganda,
like,
yes, but I also do think Top Gun is a slightly more better film in terms of sort of emotional resonance, which
I would agree.
Quite got
I think it's more.
But yeah, they're very similar films in many respects. So yeah, but yeah, and I do agree that politically probably a little murky if you look at this one. Like even though I guess you say they are sort of questioning it, there is still that element there. It's still not perfect.
Yeah, and obviously it was partially funded by the U.S. military because they use all this stuff. And I think it's really interesting, and it's I don't know, it's an interesting thing to look into. I mean, you look at films like Zero Dark Thirty, or even something like The Inspection last year, and like how they were changed because they were funded by the U.S. government, and what the U.S. government asks of filmmakers if they're going to be using U.S. government stuff in the film, they can ask them to change the plot and the screenplay and things like that. So it's just, again, I don't think every film should be viewed that way, and I don't think that we need to necessarily, do a full political analysis of this film because it's not begging to do that. But I think it's important to bring up whenever we talk about a film like this, because it's interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Just in general, like, I mean, we can talk about spoilers. Like, there's a character death within this. And I think it's handled quite well.
I think it is handled well, and I think it was also necessary. Like a lot of these franchises, like I'm looking at like maybe a Fast and Furious, feel the need to just keep characters on. Like they will happily introduce more characters, but then they'll just, and it just gets bloated and bloated.
Well, characters die in Fast and Furious; they just don't stay dead.
Well, yeah, exactly. This is what I'm saying. So, like, I don't think that'll be this case here, and so I do think the death holds more weight, and it is a necessary part of the plot in terms of not just further developing Tom Cruise's character Ethan, but also in further developing Grace's character as well. There is this sort of level of responsibility that she feels for the death, and that adds a new sort of layer to the character. And it's just another interesting thing to sort of develop this character a bit further, add a bit more sort of depth to what's going on there.
Absolutely. I think along with that, we have to talk about Gabriel, who we were kind of talking before we were
Yeah.
recording. Not the strongest of villains. I mean, I think he's intentionally played very coldly because of the whole AI thing, which I think it was a Zoe Rose Bryant on Twitter tweeted out. Like, it's really funny that the week that SAG goes on strike, with the AI stuff being one of their biggest issues, the number one movie of the weekend is Tom Cruise on a mission to destroy AI.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Kind of fun, kind of fun. Incredibly convoluted how we got to that point of the AI, but you
Yeah.
get the gist.
You get the gist. Yeah. No, but I do agree. I do think Gabriel is maybe one of the weaker elements of this film. I don't think it's like he's bad in any way.
No,
I
it
just
feels
think,
cheap.
yeah,
Like
and I
just
guess
using the
they're
flashbacks to bring him
probably,
in, and
yeah, I guess that he is probably being set up to be developed more in the second part. Like there was so much going on. There were multiple different villains. Like Gabriel, obviously he is the main villain, but there are of other villains. There are people with other motivations. There is a lot of characters at
right.
play.
They're the two guys with the government, and
Yeah.
like it feels like they're setting up the one to like leave, and like he's starting to question it. Like,
yeah, but so that, I guess what I can see why Gabriel maybe didn't quite have the development necessary, especially since, as we say, it's already quite bloated. How much more do you really want to be adding? But I'm sure we will get more development for him in the second part, which is another thing to know about this film. It is a part one, but it doesn't really feel like it. It does leave it on a satisfying conclusion. Like I think even more so when we were discussing this, but I think definitely more so than Fast X's cliffhanger. And probably more so for me than Spider-Verse as well. I do think this is a slightly more satisfying.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously think Spider-Verse is a better film as a whole.
No, God no. But yeah, I do think as a part one, I think it works as a more complete package.
Yeah, more than some like Dune as well. Which
yeah.
Like it does feel like it is fully wrapped up, at least the first
conflict in this bit.
Yeah, the conflict of this, but it's part of a larger conflict. So
yeah.
And it's also interesting that these aren't supposed to be like the last two in the frame. Like they said they're going to keep on going after this. It's just like for this story in particular, they were splitting it up into two.
Which I'm fine with because this is a franchise that sort of can keep going on. Like, and because it's already, I feel, reached a point where we're not going to go more sort of crazy than this. Like, they're not superheroes, so I feel like we're just going to sort of keep on the same level, keep going with the action set pieces, and I guess they don't need to sort of increase it further and further and further because I didn't mark like a notable shift between the tone of Fallout.
And I mean the big stunt in this is obviously the motorcycle.
Yes, no, 100%.
But yeah, I mean, if this is just Tom Cruise's avenue to keep on doing crazy stunts, and this is just where he can funnel all of his energy into, like I'm here for it. Like make 3, 4 more, 5 more of these. Like until Tom Cruise physically can't anymore.
Yes,
I'm perfectly fine with that because I wasn't a fan of the first 4 or 5, but like I've liked the last 2. I'm liking the direction where this franchise is heading. So hoping it keeps up the momentum. I mean, I don't see any reason why Dead Reckoning Part 2 wouldn't be good because this is pretty solid.
Exactly. I trust McQuarrie as a director. So yeah.
It seems like him and Tom have a very good partnership. So
100%.
I'll keep on watching. Keep on feeding me.
Also, it's good that Tom Cruise doesn't seem to feel the need to be the star constantly in these films. Like he is obviously the producer. He is probably the main draw of reason people see these films. But yet he isn't like selfish in that sort of way. Like he does seem to be setting up Haley Atwell to be a major part of this franchise going forward. He still gives time to people like Ving Rhames and Simon Pegg, who I do think were potentially a little bit sidelined here. I would have liked to see a bit more from them.
But they have a great moment like Simon Pegg in the airport. Like great.
Yeah, exactly. They all have their moments, and he allows to sort of create this sort of team dynamic, which I think is really a very good aspect of these films.
Yeah, I mean, and there's lots of. I mean, we'll see if Palma Clemente comes back because I think.
I don't know. Is she dead? I think
I don't know if she's dead. They said that they got a pulse at the end, so I don't know.
Yeah,
but I thought that she was a really fun addition to the cast. She was a really fun character. I mean, we mentioned Vanessa Kirby as well. She's delightful in this. You can tell she's having so much fun.
Exactly. Yeah.
I could watch Vanessa Kirby as this character for hours, just like doing random stuff. Like she's so fun in this role. So yeah, no, it's a really fun direction. It's a really fun direction where we're heading with this overall. Very, very positive. If we want to talk about Oscars quickly, only thing is if they introduce the stunts category this year. That's the only
Yeah, no,
thing.
pretty
Like,
much. Like,
there's a push for it. I think we'd probably win, honestly. I know John Wick Chapter 4 is like the big push for it, but I think that this
I
would win.
feel like this would win. Yeah, like I guess you could make the case for something like Sound, but I don't think it will actually happen. Like it's not the
never
type
happened
of
before.
thing. It's not the type of thing that they go for. So yeah, I do think that
If it
any
didn't
sort of
happen for
award
Fallout,
chances
I
there.
don't know how it would happen for this.
No, exactly. Any sorts of chances in terms of major awards at the Oscars and ceremonies like that. Yeah, I do think they're limited.
Like it will get like action film at Critics' Choice,
Exactly.
and it might get like stunt ensemble at SAG.
Yeah, because like the reaction's been good, but it's not Top Gun level good, and it's also not even sort of the similar thing. Like this is just another entry into a pretty long franchise already. Whereas Top Gun was like this: you're bringing this back, you're doing a legacy sequel. So I don't think they are comparative in terms of awards.
Yeah. Even though, like, I mean, I think it's the highest rated one on Letterboxd.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like it's well received, but it's
Yeah.
not quite well received enough to be
Right.
sort of
It's like it's a 4.0 on Letterboxd. It would need to be like 4.2, 4.3.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but overall solid. What do you feeling for a rating?
I'd be looking at sort of an 8. I think this is a very, very solid action film and very solid film in general. Like it delivers exactly what you want it to deliver. I do think there are problems with this, more notable problems for me than really Fallout on Rogue Nation, which is why maybe personally I'd place it just a tier below those two. But still, like it's a really good film. It's still a lot better than most action films we're getting these days. Like especially John Wick. If you compare this to something like John Wick, which for me just didn't have a story, I vastly prefer this. There is an actual story to follow. There are actual characters that you are invested in, and the stunts and action is all still good. Like you can still have great action and a solid story, and those two things are not like mutually exclusive.
Yep, completely agree. I don't know why John Wick's Chapter 4 is getting better reception, but whatever. No, this is my second favorite of the franchise, just behind Fallout, and I'm placing this at a 7 out of 10. I'm a bit harsher because I famously not the biggest fan of action films.
Yeah.
But no, I do think that this does really work. It does. Yeah. Good movie. All right, that is it for the video today. Thank you everybody so much for watching, and you can stick around because we got Barbenheimer next weekend.
We do. Exciting.
We're doing 2 separate reviews for that. Should be a lot of fun. I'm seeing them both. I've seen Barbie multiple times. And see Oppenheimer once, maybe twice. We'll see. But yeah, should be a lot of fun next weekend. So with that, plus we'll have a lot more Emmys coverage to come. Emmy nominations just happened. Lots of interesting stuff to discuss. So definitely make sure that you stay tuned for all of that. But until then, thank you everybody for watching. Stay safe and goodbye.